welcome to Hair Talk Coffee Club, Brian.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so glad you're here. Everyone, this is Brian Hickman. We're just going to get into it. And we've pretty much just always start with conversing and then it rolls into something at some point.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I wanted to have you on. Not only have you been a big part of my life, but you've been a big part of a lot of people's lives. And I kind of want to get into understanding how you got into hair, what inspired you along the way. So if you guys don't know, Brian is the creative director of Local Honey, Local Honeys, multiple. But he's done a lot of cool things along the way. He has an amazing education brand. But yeah, let's get into it. So when you started doing hair, what got you into it?
So my dad was a barber before I was born. So we went to my grandparents every Saturday, and he brought his little bag with, I would say, every, 4 or 6 weeks and cut my uncle's hair. So it was something I was always surrounded by.
Yeah.
It's never something I thought that I wanted to do in terms of as a career. But in middle school, I grew up in a small town, and so there were older barbers, and there was chain salons. And so my friends and I started just shaving each other's sides and carving designs into each other's heads. This was like early 90s. And so
He's 27.
Yes. I did it when I was 6 months.
Yes.
But it was always there. It was always
Yeah.
there. And I continued to doing their hair through high school. Never, where I grew up was incredibly working class. It was a different time. So that was not something I considered. And I tried to get into all of the trades. Like I grew up in Illinois where everything is like union. And so it was these like blue collar dream jobs but you have to know someone. But I took tests to be a plumber, an electrician, iron worker. I interviewed to be a bricklayer. And luckily I did not, at the time
Wow.
all of that led me, I ended up becoming a janitor for a year and a half.
Okay.
2 years at my high school. This was the most awful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at that age, right? Because life feels so like I thought that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, which was the best thing that could have happened because I think in times like that, it either allows you or it forces you to think differently. So it opened me up to what would I like doing. And so I was just trying, scrambling to figure that out and all the time being a janitor. And my dad got me where he was working. It was next to in the strip of a hair school, and he got information. And either way, I was just I was all in. So I was super excited not to be a janitor anymore.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with being a janitor
Right.
if that's what you're passionate about. But I just observed a bunch of guys that, basically the lead guy worked his way up so he could hide during the shift. So you're seeing like the reality playing out of what your life could look like.
Yeah.
And so, I was all in. That's led me to school, I guess.
That's so cool and
Yeah.
such a fun fact. What's interesting is all those trades have apprenticeships and like have a really strong program to like work your way into that field. And it's kind of
Totally.
similar to our trade in the
Yeah.
sense of we don't have to.
Yeah.
Whereas they do. They have to do an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
But I think the standard that we have all held ourselves to is doing something like that along the way.
For
So when you graduated school, what was your first step after that?
So I went to do an apprenticeship in a suburb of Chicago, and it was, kind of this nicer salon. In school, I took a job at a small salon that was close by. And then when I graduated, I went to do the apprenticeship. I went through it, and it felt like that was where it was going to end. There wasn't possibility for a lot of growth. So I was kind of like, and I was driving maybe 45 minutes to an hour away from home. So I was just like, I'm just going to go back to work with my friends that I started with. And then I just kept taking classes. And so the Tony and Guy connection that we have was the beauty supply that was next to my hair school also hosted classes. And so I went to one, and I really enjoyed the guys, his name is John. I don't know his last name. I don't know. Like, we kind of lost contact, back years ago. But I just asked him, how can I do this? How did you do this? And he was so generous, and I started apprenticing him. I would just go when if there was a new account and he was teaching, I would go shampoo. So it was consistent almost every Monday or every other Monday. If he was doing something at a, beauty supply spot, I would just go, whatever. I would just go hang out. And then at that time, it was based out of Dallas. And so, and then there were all the hair shows that were so big. And so I would just put myself in, I would go I would, on my own dime, go to these things and put myself in situations to learn. And then, it's basically, it's kind of a core belief for me, is just how, if you're putting yourself in a situation for opportunity and showing up with a positive attitude, it just keeps tumbling into more different opportunities.
So true. Wow, that's funny how that works. It's such a small world. So, okay, you did some apprenticing with them, and then did you move to New York at some point?
I did.
Okay.
So one of the trips I went to Premiere in Orlando, and I met someone, and it basically tumbled into they were with Tony and Guy. They were moving to New York, and I went and got the connection through them to Bumble and Bumble. And so that was November of 2001. So like 2 months after 9/11. But yeah, so I was out there it was like a short time. It was under 6 months. But that was a time where Bumble was really developing to what it was. I think they had that core of what it was within the space, but they had just launched some of their first university classes, and were starting to try do on the road things. And so what it did is me moving back from working in the suburbs of Chicago, it allowed me to have a job in Chicago right away. So the manager made a call to a salon, so I immediately, I had a job. And then when they were going on the road, so I still was going back 2 to 3 times a year, and then they were coming to Chicago. I was helping to find model, stuff like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So then you got back to Chicago, and then how did you end up in Nashville? So
it's through a Bumble connection that years later, so me going back to Bumble, did the network educator program, which was a brilliant thing that they did, that brought educators hopefully into every salon that they had products in. So they would create an opportunity for you to come learn, be a better presenter, teacher, blah, blah. You get a lot out of it, but then you're the advocate in the salon. So it was mutually beneficial. But through the person that taught me, one of the 2 teachers that taught that was in a salon in Nashville, managing a salon.
Okay.
And so they all came up to Chicago, and then eventually I came here and taught a class. And it was strange. I didn't have intentions of moving, but I remember riding the train back from the airport to, in Chicago, and I started crying. It just was a weird thing. It felt,
you felt tied to it.
Yeah. And so moved, I think, about a year and a half later. So we've been here since 2007. So almost 18 years.
Yeah, so it's definitely home for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So was it always Chicago and then Nashville that you were living and doing hair?
Yeah. New York was a blip.
Okay.
But yeah.
So were you an educator then for Bumble and Bumble? Is that what that small time was?
That was, so that you're essentially an educator within your space. I never taught for them outside of our salon. Yeah.
And then the 6 months that you were there, was that training that you were doing for cutting specifically, or?
I was an apprentice. And so again, I would say I was an apprentice 3 times, in different ways. But basically I just worked. Even when I didn't work, I would go in because there were so many really cool things going on. They had rented this huge space at Chelsea Pier, and they were filming all this. Like I saw media coming out probably 4 or 5 years later from things that they were doing when I was an apprentice there. And I think like a brilliant thing that they did was align themselves with editorial stylists, so that that's the way the products I think developed in a more interesting way. But also, there was just always crazy, cool, creative things going on that, I again continue just to show up on days off. So the thing why I decided to move back, because at the time, coming from Tony and Guy, it was so structured, and Bumble wasn't there yet. And people were apprenticing, specialized in one or the other for 3 years before you hit the floor. And so I thought, I don't see myself doing that. And knowing that eventually I wanted to move back to Chicago, to be like, okay, I'm going to do 3 years of this, hit the floor, then, so.
Yeah. And I'm sure those 3 years too, you're building a clientele or at least a network. And then for you to have all that time there to then just leave, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that makes sense that you left. I understand that.
Yeah.
I've heard a few people like that see your classes or like know your work say something along the lines of like, he's so like Tony and Guy trained. Do you feel like that's like a big part of like, your craft?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the foundations of because as a younger stylist, I naively thought that there was a way. I was looking for a way. And so right or wrong and all this. So and there were just errors that I made and things that I didn't understand why I was making these errors.
Yeah.
And so when I learned that or relearned fundamentals, it just clicked, and it was more simplistic than anything that I had, seen or experienced. And it just felt very repeatable. I love that it was filmed too. That's why we've filmed ours, because I always had a measure to go back to.
Yep.
And initially it was kind of like, when you come out, or when I came out of an apprentice program, I was like, I grasped to maybe 5 or 7 things, and then I could go back and add this thing and add this thing. And then eventually it became a measure to like, am I doing it right, quote unquote. And then eventually I'm like more assessing, like it evolved, and I was okay that it wasn't the same, because I felt more confident of, all the reps that I had gotten over time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So you came to Nashville, and then you worked at that salon for a while, and then eventually Local Honey came to be.
Yes.
And they had the first location, and then you joined on once their East location was the thing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So the process of that, when you joined Local Honey and then flash forward to right now, is this what you pictured?
No, I mean, no, I couldn't have imagined. Because I couldn't have imagined this, because social media, I didn't have social media day one of, maybe I did the day one, as I came,
That was
got there.
2014?
It's 10 years. Yeah. So I was here April Fools for 10 years. So easy to remember.
Funny, yeah.
I was there working on my own, because they said the building would be ready, and it wasn't fully ready. But I just had to make the move with my clients. But yeah, I could not have imagined what the industry that we are in right now. This, right? Like this, and
true.
like there's so many things. Travel, independent education. I mean, hardly existed.
There was no independent education, really.
No. And then even just thinking about the scale, because of like, you hear of bigger apprentice programs, but even when for the first few years, or maybe year or whatever, it was like me and one person. It was someone else and one person, or a few people. And so to be able to scale it, and I think the biggest thing that I've learned from Luke, who is, the founder and partner, is just being open to try and not be so caught up on this is the way, just
the perfectionism of it.
Yeah. Just because we've been in the industry, you're like, for a lot of years, it's easy to be like, this is how we do it. This is what works. And so to question it, I think, constantly. I mean, you get to a point where then you fall back to, okay, that does work the best. But all of it. Yeah. I like going from, having multiple teachers, having multiple days, all the things. You're like, when we did it, I was very open, but there was in the back of my head a little bit, is there going to be the quality could go down? And I think it's only continued to hopefully
progress.
Yeah.
I love that. And I agree. I think he's so good at being like, just get that work out there. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it'll get perfect later. It'll never be perfect. We'll keep evolving it.
Yeah.
So when you joined, you started social media, you helped build the salon, you were really good at recruiting. Cause I remember, and I don't know if you remember, but you would like comment and engage on other stylists in town. And that's how I found you.
Yeah.
So once it got to like a few years in of Local Honey, then you launched your independent education. And what do you think made that so successful, and how you were able to connect with an audience like all over the country?
I think part of its luck is that I had all of these years into what I was doing, and I think fairly confident in what I was doing. I do have to say, I think I grew a lot in the first handful of years because partly it's because of social media, but not just like, it's the whole act of it. It's having a place to put the photo, I think felt inspiring. And, I've met a lot of hairstylists who've done hair longer than me and have done lots of different cool things and have left, companies and didn't have any photos or barely any photos. So I think it was just, I became intentional about having model days. So when I came over, I was offered the role. I felt a big obligation to it, and I lost half my clients, which was kind of the best thing that could have happened.
And was the role that you're talking about the creative director role?
Yeah, it was like, maybe, I don't know if it was that term at the time, but it was something in that realm of like, so, and honestly, Luke believed in me more than I did in myself at the time. So which was a good thing, because I felt an obligation to live up to that.
Yeah, you had to prove it right.
Yeah. And so I started, all of this kind of tumbled into place. I did not have it figured out at all either. So losing the clients, I had time. And that's the thing that I don't think that we learn early in our career, they don't teach us in school, is to build in time to practice and play.
Yeah.
And it's anything, think of musicians or paint a traditional art, quote unquote artists. People are, doing that in the realm that they want, and we're kind of, if we aren't intentional about it, then we're kind of, I won't say we're bound by the client, right?
It becomes like all business.
Yeah. And so sometimes that works out where your ideal person shows up and you are having that great interaction, but it might not be. And so for me, coming from where I was, I'm kind of burnt out, and just, I did a lot of like more traditional hair, which I think it was also good to have that time period. It was just a lot of repetition of fundamentals.
Yeah.
But then when I came here, I had the time. I wanted to live up to it. Social media started. So I would recruit I think I did 3 models every Wednesday from around 2015.
I remember you doing that.
To 2020. It was the same way I'm coming to work on Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday to do clients for those years. Wednesday was my responsibility to fill it with models. And so it helped me because I could choose who I wanted. So it was much more intentional in the practice.
Yeah.
And then photographing the work or videoing it, because there wasn't video at first on Instagram. And there wasn't, it evolved into these things. But I learned so much from getting to do that type of work, which felt more aggressive or, I don't know, in some ways creative. But then photographing it, because I would do it and not knowing how to do this process, I would photograph it so quickly sometimes and overthink what the person's thinking about. Are they comfortable? And then they would leave, and I would look at it and be not proud of it.
I can't even use this. Yeah.
And then the next thing, it is then I would learn from that is then, okay, now I got it how I want it.
Mhm.
Then you're like, well, what would I change, or how could I evolve this?
Yeah.
And I think I really didn't, that many years into my career, I don't think I had my own, fully my own perspective until
Yeah.
I started that. And then also understanding suitability way better because you're looking at that. You have the ability to look at it and love it or hate it or, whatever.
So, I think that's too, like, so interesting to hear, just because I haven't really heard your full like story, but Carly did tell me that you did a lot of very like normal traditional hair for a very long time. And I think like a lot of people look at your social media and it would be like, oh, he's always done this kind of hair, like this style. But really a big part of your career was doing what everyone like wanted you to do. Someone came in and they asked for normal hair. You were doing normal hair. And the only way that you kind of broke out of that and found what like you're so known for now is by doing those model days and like that creative time.
Totally. And I wouldn't trade any of the other past stuff because it solidified, like, I think hopefully why my work stands out is because it's structurally sound.
Yeah. You can repeat it.
Yeah. And it's suitable. And the little thing I'll say too, I was like a bridal expert for two
Wait,
all three of us did weddings.
That's what I learned about her. Is everyone that's gonna come in, when they say that, I'm blown away because I didn't know that about you.
What
she
is
didn't know
it?
that
It's
about
like
me.
the canon event of hairstylists being like a bridal
and then we're like, oh shit, I don't want to do that.
There was like,
but it makes you really good at styling.
Yeah,
totally.
it does.
And all of it ties into how you see. But there was a big event in Chicago every year at the Wyndham Hotel. It was like this expo.
Not the Wyndham.
Yeah, this expo thing, So, but there were Saturdays where I remember a few where I had 3 brides on once. People were, it was like the salon was in a good spot in Chicago. So it was easy to move about. But yeah. So
that's such a fun, it does all tie in. Because classics, we talk about this all the time. Classics are repeatable and anything advanced is just them combined.
Exactly.
It's just that.
Yeah, you're just pushing them.
You're just taking a part of each thing you've
yeah.
learned. Same with you doing multiple apprenticeships, is you took pieces of all of that and combined it to be your brand. And so I think just looking at you and your education brand, what made it successful and it's never easy, but easy for people to want it, is that you had a brand and people know your brand and you worked hard to establish that. And so that made, once you launch your education, probably easier for people to be like, yeah, I want him at my salon to teach, or I want to study that online. So everyone brush up on your classics.
I'd say too that I'm pretty basic when it comes to, I think early on people were like, what am I going to write in the caption? Or, and even like trying to figure out my name. I remember, on Instagram, and Natalie and I were talking back and forth about it. I'm like, well,
is it just Brian Hickman now?
It's just one, because there was
another one.
But like, I would rather people know. And even I used to wear the same outfit every day. Like, I was just very
that's what I
fundamental.
heard. Like, that's not been since I've been there. But
I have to find, and I'll post it maybe on our Instagram, the picture of that Halloween when the stylist dressed up like you.
Everyone told me Brian wore the same thing every day.
But that was a Tony and Guy thing.
Yes,
like that's what they wore. Yeah, they wore white shirts and black pants.
Up until COVID, and then even a little bit, but it's just coming back. It didn't feel like me anymore. Which I feel like a little. I think I felt like I had to be this, in some ways, this thing to be this title, and it gave me this ease to. But then after, now I just kind of.
I will speak on the simplicity of a uniform, though.
It's kind of nice. Yeah.
I think highly educated and smart people tend to do those types of things because we don't have time to think about it. Yeah. And so to have a rotation of a set thing you wear, it makes sense, especially when you're busy. And you're a dad of 2, you're busy. It's not easy.
It stays interesting.
It does. Yeah. We love it. Okay. So you have your branded education, and then with Local Honey, obviously you have education you've been pushing and running, and you're working on this project of case study where you're putting out education and tying a lot of us into it. So what are some of your next goals with your brand and what you're doing at Local Honey? Loaded question.
That's kind of the hard one, I think, has always been for me. I've always admired people that were like very central in a goal. But because of what we were saying earlier, or just when you asked, like, could I have imagined this? And so a lot of it feels so just moving in positive steps forward and knowing, there's different, it feels like always planting seeds, right? So case study, we started talking about potentially doing a product line probably in 2019, maybe even 2018. And we have the name, but not that we don't have a definite plans moving forward on that right now. But the center of it is seeing ourselves as equals to any artist or architect or, and I have to, and we all have, we've gotten to be around all different types of people, and we got to sit at different tables, and it's the same. It's like when someone cares about what they do, is passionate about what they do, it's the verbiage is different, but it's the same thing. I could listen to anyone talk about that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's at the base of the products is like, and at the base of kind of hope what we strive for at Local Honey is trying to create a diversity in every way so that when we're all different, it will all make each other stronger. But with that, the events that we've been doing, we'll do Atlanta. We want to do an artist interactions in New York, March 8th.
She'll have a new baby.
Oh yeah, letting you know.
So I might have to abandon her and represent Hair Talk. Just bring the newborn. It's easy.
Hey, I'm down for anything.
Yeah, it's hopefully you have it by then.
Yeah. Oh, if I haven't, please help me. Then help.
I can't. Yeah. So just expanding it.
The big thing is just continuing to build momentum. This year has been with Cliff that we work with. Help is having the attitude of I'd rather sell tickets, which we've sold a good amount of tickets. But the first thing we did was I'm like, if we can fill the room, I believe, and same with case study is I would think I would rather sell a fair amount of tickets, but then continue and fill the room because I believe in what we have to offer. And so I think it's just like continuing that into next year. And then it's been cool to see that there's other educators that from the past that have, reached out that I'm going to teach classes with. So it's cool that people are noticing. And I just think that continues that. I've been, I don't know what's the right word, blessed enough or I've always put this in the front of everything. I have money comes and I don't have to worry, which I'm grateful for. And I know that that's like a privilege. So, but that's kind of, I'm always trying to lead with that is like creating something that's fun for people to do. That's hopefully, I think that can be valuable to our audiences. Yeah. And then, like I said, I'm not the money. I'm not so
the money. Yeah, you're not as motivated by the money on the upfront. I had somebody tell me that I respect and love that used to teach me, and they were like, "Why aren't you in New York?" This was years ago. Like, why aren't you coming up here? Because I was going up there for classes. I was like, "Oh, I'm broke." This is my early 20s, and they were always like, "No matter what you do, the money will follow." And it's so true. Yeah. Like anything that I've done, if I know that I can't see the inherent value in money instantly, it's going to be okay because it's always worked out in the future. Like anything that builds credibility or builds up your brand is going to add value, and people are going to want to pay for that eventually.
You're always planting seeds, and I think if you come at it with a positive intention, and also as a younger person, I thought people were doing me a favor or something, if something would happen. But really, it's if you're showing up in that way, it's reciprocal. Everything. Yeah. Even I didn't like the term networking or what is it?
People talking, friends.
Like
connecting.
No, like what's the word? It just sounded like there was a word that sounded.
Is it cheesy?
No, it's just I don't. Sometimes I'm weird with verbiage, where I'm like,
It's
but
just not giving what it should.
You're an authentic human, so you don't like to do things that feel inauthentic.
I don't like. I think I can't think of the ting word. But basically, it felt like I would. Maybe it is. No, I don't know. But
I feel like networking is probably
maybe,
it gives it a little bit of a bad taste. If I'm being honest.
Yeah. So to me, that's just like positive collaboration.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I used, and maybe it's not that for me anymore, but I try not to use it in case other people think of it that way. But I think it's like, if you can provide an opportunity and you both are getting something positive.
Yeah.
And like,
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jay's a lot like that too, where he doesn't like the word networking. I love it. I thrive in it.
I'm okay with it now.
I thrive
I think
in
it's your
it
perception of like what that
like what you're getting out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
I love connecting people. I love being connected to people. I don't know.
Because I get what he's saying. Like,
it.
it's whenever you're like young and starting out too, it feels like any opportunity someone gives you is like, oh my God, thank you so much. But really, they're benefiting from that as well.
Oh, I learned that the hard way. Yes. Like where it seems like, oh my gosh,
I need to be
this,
so grateful.
It's the same with the network education. Like brands do that. And it's not a bad thing because it's a tit for tat. Brands do that because if they're giving you something, they're getting something out of it.
Like they're not going to do anything out of like the kindness of their heart for you. You know what I mean? Like there's something they're also receiving.
That's true.
And I think it's important to remember that because then you kind of like move differently whenever you understand that. You know what I mean?
It took me probably 2 decades to realize that. Like it took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah.
It's just like the part where when the independent education came, or I think just figuring out how to navigate talking about them. That's the hard part for a lot of us, is like talking about it to the at least starting out, not understanding there's a market for everything, and that the things that we were just talking about,
That's so true. Well, this was fun.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if I have any other hot topics or anything.
I really learned a lot. I didn't know that much about like your whole story, like start to finish. Just kind of like, the local honey times, but kind of got you
the bridal like facts.
I know, right?
I think that's that was my favorite fun fact of the day for sure.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you so much for coming out to Hair Talk Coffee Club.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have you out again because next year our goal is to have like different subjects specifically that we pivot off. So I'm sure we'll find one that we need you for.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you, and I appreciate you for everything you've done. Yeah. And I love working with you. So it's been fun to watch you grow.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been an honor. So thank you. That's Hair Talk Coffee Club. See you next time.